Our eyes have been telling us the same thing for the past 4 years. There is no defense in the NBA. But this season, it has reached an all-time low. I'm here to tell you that your eyes have not been lying to you. This has nothing to do with the amount of talent in the league or the precision that the players shoot the three ball. This has everything to do with the NBA doing everything in its power to remove defense from the game. And I have the numbers to prove it. Let's look at the first statistic, and that's defensive rating. The NBA currently has 115.9 defensive rating as its league average. That is the worst rating in NBA history. Now let's break this down team by team. 15 of the 30 worst defensive rating for a single season has come from teams from this year. In fact, 4 of the 5 worst defensive rating for a single season has come from teams of the 2023/24 season. What's even worse is all the teams in the top 14 are from teams of the last 2 seasons. That is not a coincidence. Now let's look at another stat, which is opponents' points per game, or points allowed. 7 of the top 50 worst opponents' points per game average have come from teams of this year. That is more than any other season in NBA history. The league average is currently 115.6 points per game allowed. The last time the NBA gave up an average of at least 115 points per game was in the 1969/70 season. This came during a time when the teams were averaging 117.1 possessions per game. That is 17.9 more possessions than the league average today. And yet, teams now are scoring just as much. Some might defend all this by saying that the three-point shot has allowed teams to score at a historic pace. However, we can't just credit the three-point shot. It's not just that. It's also the wide-open three-point looks that the players are receiving on a nightly basis. Once again, we have the numbers to prove this. We're going to be looking at the average opponent's three-point field goal percentage. This particular stat is a little tricky. For instance, we can't compare this season to what teams were doing in the 90s. Let's use the 1996 Milwaukee Bucks as an example. They allowed 39.7% from the three, which is the 4th worst ever. But we have to take into consideration that the three-point line was shortened in that season, and the league was not shooting as many threes as they do today. In fact, the league average was 16 three-point attempts per game. Just for comparison, Steph Curry is averaging 11.6 attempts this year. All those factors allowed for teams to shoot a higher percentage from behind the arc. With that in mind, we're only going to compare teams since the 2009/10 season. The numbers say that 12 of the 50 worst opponents' three-point field goal percentage has come from this year. That is the most out of any season from the past 15 years. So according to the numbers, you could absolutely make the argument that this is the worst defensive season in NBA history. Whether or not you agree with this assessment, we can all agree that at the very least, the NBA is an offensive-friendly league. Some fans have defended the state of the league by arguing that this is better than what it was in the late 90s and early 2000s. During that era of basketball, teams were much more defensive-oriented, and they ran the offense at a much slower pace in order to score points from the post. So are we saying that we want the NBA to go back to that? I can't speak for everyone, but I wouldn't want to go back to that. Instead, I would like to go back to 2016. Do you remember that season? I've heard so many fans say that this was the most memorable season in recent memory. I think that was the perfect balance between offense and defense. Let's use that year as the ultimate piece of evidence to prove that we are witnessing the worst defensive season ever. Currently, the Minnesota Timberwolves are the best defensive team in the league. They're first in defensive rating and opponents' points per game. But if they were playing in the 2015/16 season, they would be one of the worst defensive teams. Let's look at the numbers. They currently have 109.4 defensive rating. In 2016, that would have been the 5th worst rating in the NBA. Minnesota is also allowing 107.4 points per game. In 2016, that would have been the 4th worst in the league. They would essentially have been the equivalent of the 2016 New Orleans Pelicans. By all measurements, they were considered a weak team. But if they were transported to 2024, they would be considered the #1 defense in basketball. I'm not convinced that the talent today is all that better than 8 years ago. This has nothing to do with the NBA having a surplus of talent. This has everything to do with the NBA making it incredibly easy for players to score at will. That is why we are witnessing so many huge scoring performances. That is why 46 total players are averaging over 20 points per game. You mean to tell me that Franz Wagner would be scoring more than Jaw Wall would if they were playing in 2016? I highly doubt that. They're all benefiting from an extremely weak defensive era, and something has to be done about it. But that's just my opinion. Do you think this is the worst the NBA has ever been on defense? What do you think needs to change in order to bring more balance to the game? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.